Sameach to everyone. I'm sending out a little music in the background until we get started. Okay, I'm going to run it once more because we have a little time till everyone else comes on board. So we'll just enjoy the greeting. It's supposed to repeat itself. Let's see if it does what I asked it to do.
I have another one for you. When we get it.
No, it's everything is already loaded. It's too complicated. Let's see if it'll do it for me. I said, loop, here it is.
חברים יקרים,
looping up again.
השנה אמנם כל אחד מאיתנו חוגג את פסח
Greetings from the
לבד
Israel
בבית.
Philharmonic.
אבל התזמורת הפילהרמונית ואני, שמתגעגעים אליכם מאוד,
It was
הכנו
last
לכם
year
משהו
that
מיוחד.
we had this
מקווה שתהנו.
for everyone. Okay. All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to stop the share for 1 second to greet all of you who've joined in. I see Joanne Saren, I think you're having some trouble connecting with audio. Hang in there. There we go. Okay. Everybody. Okay, people are coming on board. Very good. Welcome to all of you. And some people are coming on board with Facebook or on Zoom directly.
Okay, coming on board.
I see Barbara's there. Barbara Drato. Missed you.
Need to be tested.
So with this, we're going to start us up. We actually have a minion here for
Thank you.
our Pesach Seder, second Seder. And I'm going to shrink down here. Welcome you to my symbolic Seder table. This is from 2 years ago. We had it set up. My wife's family is from Yemen. So we do the vegetables, all the vegetables, the greens, as the table becomes the Seder plate. So you have the bitter herbs, the parsley, radishes all around, and then separate trays for each of the Seder items. And normally there would be not just a symbolic piece of wing, but there would actually be roast meat for the zroa, the special charoset that the Yemenites have, and so forth. So I've got the decorated table for you. And I've got on my screen in front of me, I hope we can, actually I did my stop. There we go. I have on my screen behind me, you can barely make it out, my own little improvised Seder table. I'm in very crowded quarters, so everything is symbolic here, but we'll point to the different symbols as we go. Okay, people waiting in the waiting room, admit, go ahead. Good, people are coming in. So I'm going to go and we're going to open up our Seder. I can find what I have. Welcome you to Hollywood Temple Beth El for our Some Enchanted second night Pesach Seder sing-along. Not really a sing-along, so you can sing on your own. We started with this several years back where we did some Hollywood songs, Broadway songs with parody words as a way of teaching the essence of the Seder. But this time we've added with a special emphasis on the great panoply of Jewish traditions, because we spent this year with different Jewish communities around the world, different Jewish traditions. So I'm going to incorporate elements of that into our Seder, along with some stories and a little bit of lightness and lightheartedness. So it's not all heavy matzah in our stomachs, but some light, happy charoset as well. That's the way to put it. So as I said, I've got my Seder table in front of you, and we're going to open with a prelude from my friend Marina Wax, who prepared this piano composition for Seder.
All right,
She's given concerts. Okay. Can always go on to it. Look up Marina Wax and the Jewish Rhapsody. Beautiful piano compositions. She did a concert for us way back when in the 90s with children's choir, 100 children's choir, and singers, entertainers, and so on for Jerusalem.
Wow.
So I'm using a text I've adopted from a text called Different Night. Noam Zion, and David Dishon. Give credit is due. I've cut it and added what's appropriate or taken out what we can. And I want to take us, we have quite a few members of the Sephardic Chavra with us also. We spent some time, among other things, with the Ladino and the Balkan communities. And so this is a song many of you may be familiar with, which is Pesach Almano, Passover is at hand. Purim has gone and Passover has come. I have the words here in English for us, in the Ladino transliterated, and here's the music with some very beautiful pictures with it. If you know it, you can sing along. Okay, so those of you who understood the Ladino, you know what it's singing. If you know some Spanish, you can make it out also. Purim is gone and Passover is at hand. So we prepared. We've done our preparations. We'll light the candles. I'm going to do it figuratively. Those of you who have candles, you can lead in with us. So second night, we light candles as on the first night. And the idea of the second night is that since we were not 100% sure with the calendar outside of the land of Israel, we added a day. What a better excuse to have another festival. So we added another day and we light the candles again. And so we say, Baruch Atan Mecholam Asher Kirishanu Mitzvotav V'tzivanu L'Kner Shel Yom Tov. And even though we did Shechiyanu last night, again, well, maybe we're not right. Maybe it's tonight and not yet last night. So Jews always like to be on the safe side. Well, if we did it last night, but we're unsure, today is also a new day, and we're doing it together again. We haven't seen each other for a year in person for sure. and maybe also online. So we say Baruch Hatan Mecholam Shechiyanu Kiyamanu V'Giyanu Lazman Hazeh.
Amen.
Then we go to the steps of the Seder. And so for this, we spent one session with Jews of Poland today, and this is for a Seder done in Krakow, where they're going to sing the steps of the Seder. You have the Kadesh or Chatz, Karpas Yachatz, right? The cup, the washing, the dipping, breaking the challah, telling, the washing again, Motzi and Matzah, Maror, Korech, Shulchan Aruch Tzafun, Barech, Halel, Nirtza, right? Those are the endings of the all the outline.
You can get a little closer now.
Seder. So how they sing it in Krakow.
Że seder ma seder, porządek, tak? I этот porządek przez hebrajskie słowa, które będą takim refrenem muzycznym.
Continue. The Kiddush, I have my cup, which also will double as my cup for Elijah. And we'll chant together the Kiddush together. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher b'chazor mikolam v'nikol hasham kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'titzanu V'ava modim simcha chagim uzmanim l'sazon Yom Chag HaMatzot hazeh zman chayuteinu Mikra Kodesh zecha l'tziat Mitzrayim Yivanu v'chata V'otani kiddush mikol amim V'ari kosher simcha v'sason In chaltanu Baruch atah Adonai V'kadosh Yisrael hazmanim. And again, we say Shechianu because we don't know, is this the right cup of wine? Or was yesterday the cup of wine, or is today the cup of wine? And since we're in doubt, let's celebrate anyway. Baruch atah Adonai V'Eheyanu Ki Yamanu V'Higianu Lazman Hazeh Lazman Hazeh Lazman Hazeh.
Amen.
And we drink leaning to the left side, Nisuvin, leaning. I tried to put a pillow on this chair, but it's a reclining chair anyway, so I figure I'm safe on that count. And we do symbolic washing of the hands. So I have a hand laver. In this case, the first washing is the host. I'm not going to try to do it on my desk. It's going to cause a problem, but it's symbolic. All right, and then we have our first, on the set of place today, karpas. So anything that you have at home, green, growing, any kind of fruit, any kind of vegetable, essentially, it fulfills the question of karpas. And those of you who were on with me yesterday morning, we did a Passover Jeopardy, and it was to identify the Latin name for the fruit of the earth, which was karpas, the Latin word, commonly using petrozilia, a Latin word, a modern Hebrew word for parsley. So we would dip it in the salt water, salt, to remind us of the tears of Egypt. And the actual reason behind it is because it needs something to eat before you get to dinner. So it was like an appetizer. That was its intention. So we would say over this, Baruch atah mecholam borei ha'adama.
Amen.
Take a bite. Enjoy the parsley. It's good for digestion. That's what I'm told. Okay. We take our matzah and we break the middle matzah, and then I have to hide it.
We already did that. So.
But I think you're going to have trouble finding it, as the half becomes the afikomen. Well, okay, it's a virtual. If it's a virtual hidden, and if you find it, you can give yourself a virtual prize. That's it.
Money.
Always money.
Virtual money, or
Yeah.
Bitcoin. Pay yourself.
Bitcoin is a good idea.
There we go. So now we have to tell the story, the holach anya. Because this is the bread of affliction. We point to the matzah. We explain it's the bread of poverty and oppression. And we recall with this what it was like to be oppressed. And we invite those in need to come and eat with us. Now we may be here. In the future, we'll be in the land of Israel. Hashta Avdei. Today, we are still slaves, Jews in exile all over the world till modern times. L'shana haba b'nei horin. Even though we sit in a free country, we're not completely so free in our minds, because what was the other guy saying? When we'll be in our land with no enemies, then we are truly free. And that's the prayer that we have. Oh, we can do halach ma'anya, a little visual as we sing along. Enjoy the cartoon here with it.
Your internet connection.
And you can sing along.
הלחמניה די אכלו אבהתנה בהרעה דמצרים בהרעה דמצרים כל דכפין יתה ויכול כל דצריך יתה ויפסח השתה לשנה הבאה בעדי ישראל השתה עבדי לשנה הבאה בני חורין הלחמניה היא אכלו אבהתנה בהרעה דמצרים בהרעה דמצרים כל דכפין יתה ויכול כל דצריך יתה ויפסח השתה לשנה
Cute little visual to go with it. And now we will be free. Okay, there we go. There we go. And just cut down some of these just to keep a little bit control of it. Now, manishtana, everybody knows manishtana. We always give it to the youngest child to say. So, Barbara Drato, you can sing along. You're the youngest child here. I'm glad to have you here. I've got Cantor Bryce. Cantor Bryce had this recording, and some of you may remember she was with us 2 or 3 years ago for the high holidays. Beautiful voice. She's now in Orlando, Florida, where she gets to go to Disneyland and Universal Studios when she's not in shul. That's a great job. Go ahead and enjoy yourselves with this. Manishtana.
Studios when she's
Yes,
not in
right.
shul. That's a great job.
מה נשתנה הלילה?
Hi Bryce, how are you?
הלילה שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה כולו מצה, הלילה הזה כולו מצה. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים שאר ירקות, שאר ירקות. הלילה הזה כולו מרור, הלילה הזה כולו מרור. שבכל הלילות אין אנו מטבילים אפילו פעם אחת, אפילו פעם אחת. הלילה הזה שתה ועמי, הלילה הזה שתה ועמי. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים בין יושבים ובין מסובין, בין יושבים ובין מסובין. הלילה הזה כולנו מסובין, הלילה הזה כולנו מסובין.
Thank you, Bryce. Those kids that you're teaching in Orlando, they're having a wonderful time with you. Okay, so Manishtana, we know our questions, but how do they ask in other places? Well, we had
Theodore Bickel.
huh? Yeah, I'm
Theodore
gonna get to-
Bickel.
No, but we didn't get to the Jews of Iraq. We got to the Jews of Iran, and Iraq's right next door. So I have this line from Manishtana, the way it's asked by the Jews of Iraq. That's they're pretty authentic.
Very.
They go back 2,500 years at least.
Maybe I should take.
Only 5 left.
מנשתנה הלילה הזה מכל הלילות, שבכל הלילות הן אנחנו מתבלים את יבוא המלוכות הלילה הזה שתי פעמים, שבכל הלילות אנחנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, והלילה הזה כולו מצה, שבכל הלילות אנחנו אוכלים שאר ירקות, והלילה הזה מרור, שבכל הלילות אנחנו אוכלים ושותים בין יושבים ובין מסובין, והלילה הזה כולנו מסובין.
That's from Rachel Masliach.
מנשתנה, today.
Oh, okay. Graduate of Columbia and Jewish Theological Seminary, my rabbinical school. And now, Theodore became Yiddish.
Now, Theodore Bickel.
There we go. I couldn't let the Yiddish speakers feel left out.
Tat, ich will dich fragen, die 4 Kasches. Aber was ist die Nacht von Pesach anders von alle anderen Nacht? Alle Nacht von der ganzen Jahr, es mir komme zum Matze. Aber die Nacht von Pesach, es mir noch Matze. Alle Nacht von der ganzen Jahr, es mir allerlei Grinsen. Aber die Nacht von Pesach, es mir noch Morer. Alle Nacht von der ganzen Jahr, dunkel mir nicht einer viele einmal, aber die Nacht von Pesach, dunkel mir 1, 2 Mal. Alle Nacht von der ganzen Jahr, essen mir, sei sitzen dick und sei ungelehnt, aber die Nacht von Pesach, essen mir noch ungelehnt. Theodore Bickel.
So that's Theodore Bickel. And that's the standard European Ashkenazic melody. The Iraqi melody, very close to the one that Bryce sang, which is the current Israeli version. So probably the Israeli version is influenced by one of the Mizrahi Middle Eastern Jewish melodies. And then how do the kids in Yemen get their answer? And so it's called Mahaba. So I'm going to show you a picture, and I'm going to ask you, Ma nishtana in this picture? What do you see unusual in this picture?
The dress.
The
way
dress
they're
is
dressed.
Yemenite dress, the striped robe, the
Looks like a
peyote,
man.
the hat. What else looks unusual?
The matzah.
The matzah.
Matzah's melting. It's a Salvador Dali matzah, right? It's melting watches. So
Like
the
the clock.
matzah is soft.
It's round, it's a
And I've
regular.
had soft matzah in the past.
soft.
It looks like bread.
It's
Okay,
naan.
so the secret
like naan.
is that when you do matzah the right way, it's not supposed to be hard as a rock. It actually is supposed to come out on the soft side. That you're gonna, if you don't let it sit 18 minutes, if you fluff it the right way, it comes out soft. And it turns out that matzah originally was soft. It was just flat but soft. And the reason we have the hard as a rock matzah is that as it was industrialized and matzah was prepared well in advance to ship across larger distances, you couldn't do it this way. You had to bake it very hard so it could ship. And that's why you got stuck with the matzah that sits like cement. All right, so that's the original. So the Yemenites still do it. Other Jewish communities had it. They may still, some other communities may still do it. So here's the answer, which is, how is this holy and exalted night filled with light and honor different? So here's the answer. On this night, our ancestors and forefathers went forth from Egypt, from the house of bondage, from the tyranny of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh decrees the Israelites should mix straw for bricks without recompense. And this is how the child learns the story. 400 bricks a day to build storage facilities and dwelling place for the evil and cursed Pharaoh. Now, this is the good part. Pharaoh's head like that of a monster, his mouth like the opening of an oven, his stomach like a giant cavern, and his backline that the broken back of an ass. God also punished him with a terrible punishment because he cut short the lives of the Israelites. And he brought upon them plagues and the horrible death of the firstborn. Even a shriveled old lady was cursed with 1,000 curses. She made a human image from dough, and while she was leaning over the oven, a mad dog came in and ate the dough image on that night. And the old woman began to scream in horror, and thus was fulfilled God's promise, there'll be no house without dead. Even the dough in the oven, that got eaten up. Right? So this is just for a second how it sounds with the children singing along their answer.
Wow.
But do you remember? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
We didn't say it.
وخبر ذا الليل من جميع الليالي خرجوا جدودنا وأبيانا من مسبط العبودية ما كانوا يفعلوا كانوا يخلطوا التم في الليل والليل في التم لما ثرى الروشو على الجمهور الذي رطش أساس العور ثم وصعق منك التنور وأورد الله على المصريون الدم والضفادع الدم والقمر.
Yeah.
Okay. You got the translation here. Just so you know, that's what Hebrew's supposed to sound like. That's according to the Ammonites.
Yeah.
They claim everybody else has messed it up. They've got it the right way. We're going to go ahead now. So here's the answer that we give. Besides that one, you all know Avadim Hayinu, the Pharaoh b'Mitzrayim. We were slaves in Egypt. Lord freed us from Egypt with a mighty hand. Had not the Holy One liberated our people from Egypt, then we, our children, and our children's children would still be enslaved. And therefore, even as wise as we may be, and as learned as we may be, we have a mitzvah and obligation to talk about the exodus from Egypt. It's Ashkenazic melody. Now to the Moroccan Joe Amar, many of you are familiar with him.
Yeah, we are.
You are.
No, he's the Ruby.
And he's explaining in French at the introduction.
Ma guide, on remplira le deuxième verre et on récite la Haggadah. Il est de coutume que le maître de maison lève le plateau de Pâques, le passe sur les têtes des convives en chantant. אתמול היינו עבדים, היום בני חורין, היום כאן לשנה הבאה בערד ישראל, בני חורין, שלא יצאנו ממצרים, הלחם העניה, בני חורין. יחנו אבותינו בארעד מצרים כל דכפין יתה ויכול כל דצריך יתה ויפסח השטח לשנה הבאה בארעד ישראל השטח עבדי לשנה הבאה בארעד ישראל בני חורים.
I'm going to correct myself. I think it's the Bibihilu Yatzam with surprise and confusion we left Egypt. It's the Halach Ma'anya actually that he's introducing. I correct myself there. I don't want anybody to get
Why are they talking about lamb? The French was about lamb.
They eat lamb.
The Paschal lamb.
Okay.
Lamb of Pesach. Ashkenazim don't eat lamb because it's interesting. The temple no longer exists, so we don't have the sacrifice. So the Ashkenazim intentionally don't eat lamb.
In Morocco, we eat lamb.
The Sfardim eat lamb because of the Seder Pesach. Okay, there you got it.
Thank you.
Got it. Like we don't eat rice, Sfardim eat rice. Why don't we eat rice? Because you mistake it for your Betty Crocker cake mix.
And the fava beans, Rabbi.
Yeah.
We eat that soup with fava beans.
The same thing. Now, some Moroccans don't eat rice. There's some communities that didn't eat rice also. But to the great part, it's some of the rabbis in Europe in the Middle Ages said, we said, Minhag Shtut, we don't know where it came from, but it stuck. Okay, so we've got the 4 children. In Hebrew, he talks about Abba Banim, 4 sons. Now we got 4 girls, or 4 boys, or 4 mixed. It's all the children. And the obligation 4 times, the Torah tells us, you shall tell your child. Each time it has a different way of saying it. All these words are from the story of the Exodus itself. And so out of it has been built a story about 4 kinds of children. Echad chacham, echad rasha, echad tam, echad she'eno yodea lishol. We know this one is wise, one is wicked, one is simple, one does not know how to ask. Right? There we go. Who wants to be, do I have a volunteer to be the wise child? Oh, yeah, Eliane, I saw you hang up first. Go ahead.
What are the testimonies, the statutes, and the laws which Adonai our God has commanded you?
Go ahead. Oh, you must tell some of the laws of Pesach from the Mishnah, for example. Go ahead. We do not
proceed to any afikoman dessert or after dinner celebrations after eating the Paschal lamb.
Right. So you're teaching in the entire text of the Talmud till the very last sentence, which is and we don't go out afikoman. Afikoman doesn't mean matzah. Afikoman means we don't go out partying and drinking. The Greeks do. We're not the Greeks. We don't drink. We eat, we don't drink, right? That's the, sorry. Let me see if I got another volunteer to be, who wants to be the wicked child? Anybody? Jeff, you're raising your hand?
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Okay, go, Jeff.
Whatever does this service mean to you?
Whoops, 1 second. Sorry, go ahead.
Whatever does this service mean to you? This child emphasizes to you and not to himself or herself, since the child excludes himself or herself from the community and rejects a major principle of faith. You should set that child's teeth on edge and say,
it is because of this that Adonai did for me when I went forth from Egypt. Me and not that one. Had that one been there, he would never, she would never have been redeemed. I leave alone. What's the point? They both say something similar. What are these laws? But the wise one says etchem, which is the direct object. And it also indicates with you, not only to you, but also with you, variant on Hebrew grammar. Whereas the wicked says, lachem, he's pointing the finger to you, right? And so the crime is not disbelieving, the crime is removing himself from the community. I'm better than everybody else. I don't need anything Jewish, right? That's what makes that one the nasty one. So now, Tom, who's going to be the simpleton? Volunteer for simple?
I can do it.
Go ahead, be simple. Very good.
What?
Wait a minute. Go
It
ahead.
disappeared. What is this?
And you say to that child, by mighty hand, Adonai brought us out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. And the one who can't even ask a question, you know, the Elisha. Any volunteers for doesn't know the answer, doesn't know the question? So
You
I'll be
should
the-
prompt him as it is said.
Okay, hold on, go ahead.
You should
Wait, I'm sorry, go ahead.
You should prompt him, as it is said, you shall tell your child on that day, saying, it is because of this that Adonai did for me when I went free from Egypt.
Okay, very good. There we go. So, open his mouth and give him the question. And there's always been attempts to modernize it. See this one from the 1920s cartoon, The Four Children, the immigrant generation. Simple, the street urchin, the boxer, and the one that's going on to City College and do his PhD. All right, that's the immigrant culture. And then the good Marxists, as opposed to the real Marxists, the good Marxists, Groucho, Harpo, Chico, and Zeppo. Right? Which one is the wise? Which one is well? Yeah, Groucho's got to be the wise guy. All right, and now you're all familiar with this. It's an American folk song rearranged for the Four Children. I'm sure you're all familiar with this one.
Said the father to his children, at the Seder you will dine. You will eat your fill of matzah. You will drink 4 cups of wine. Now this father had no daughters, but his sons they numbered 4. One was wise and one was wicked. One was simple and a bore. And the 4th was sweet and winsome. He was young and he was small. While his brothers asked the questions, he could scarcely speak at all.
Now, the version that I have, this is the version of children 6 to 9. The version that I have is that he's the one who walks away with the beautiful girl in his arms. That's the version I had. And that may have been the older version.
This is from Theodore Bickel saying this. It was about a 9er 49er and his daughter Clementine.
Right, that was the original melody. Right. Oh, so,
Yeah.
okay, there was the original melody. That's it. So now we have V'hi Shamda, and we remember, and we open the matzah again here, and if you can see it here, it's a little bit hard. We remember the guarantee that God gave our ancestors in all the generations to be at our side, to stand at our side at all times. And that Shelo Echad Bilvad, not only once, but in every generation. There have been those who've come up to destroy us, and yet in each generation, the Holy One has pulled us out from the burning fires and saved us. So here is a version. 2 prominent Israeli singers, Yaakov Shwebke and Shlomi Shabbat, singing V'hi Shamda with the Philharmonic or full orchestra behind them. Well, come back here. There we go.
שעמדה לבוא עוד צריכים אותנו שלא אחד עמד עלינו לכלותנו עמד עלינו לכלותנו בכבוד, שלומי שבת.
והיא שעמדה אבותינו, והיא שעמדה אבותינו ולנו, שלא אחד בלבד עמד עלינו לכלותנו, עמד עלינו לכלותנו.
והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו, מצילנו עם ידיו. והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו, מצילנו עם ידיו. בשבילך.
והיא שעמדה לאבותינו,
והיא שעמדה לאבותינו ולנו, שלא אחד בלבד עמד עלינו לכלותנו, עומד כל רגע לכלותנו.
והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו, מצילנו מידם. והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו, מצילנו מידם. שלא אחד בלבד עמד עלינו לכלותנו, לכלותנו.
הקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו, הקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם.
Okay, this is the wonders of technology. You know how much it would cost us to bring either of those two singers by themselves without the music to a concert, then pay for the orchestra also. And
Thank
we got
you.
it thanks to YouTube. The wonders of YouTube. They just go and repeat the refrain. Beautiful, beautiful format. So we now have the story, the traditional story, which opens up with a passage from the Bible, which is the statement that we are supposed to give when we bring our first fruits. That's where it's actually taught in Deuteronomy. And that is a summary of the entire Exodus in one very short paragraph, which is Arami Oved Avi. My ancestor was a wandering Aramean. He descended to Egypt and resided there in small numbers. Came a nation, great and powerful, numerous. The Egyptians treated us badly. They persecuted us, put under hard labor. We cried out to Adonai, the God of our ancestors. God heard our voice. God saw our persecution, our toil, and our oppression. God took us out of Egypt with a strong hand and an outstretched arm with awesome power and signs and wonders. God brought us to this place and gave us this land, a land of milk and honey. Now I have brought the first fruits of this soil which you, God, gave me. So that is the declaration in nutshell. In few sentences, the entire story of the Exodus. Now on this, the rest of the Seder is built upon expounding and expanding. You give a Jew a word and he gives you a dictionary, all right, an entire dictionary, right? So that's why the Seder seemingly goes on and on and on, because you have to expand each word. But we're not going to do quite that much. I'm going to give just a few of these. Let's read these together. They persecuted us. They put taskmasters over Israel to strip their labor in order to persecute them with their burdens. They built for Pharaoh the garrison cities of Pithom and Ramses. And they imposed hard labor on us. The Egyptians worked the children of Israel harshly, degrading us with backbreaking and degrading us with backbreaking. And so we cried out to Adonai, This was the turning point. After many days, the king of Egypt died. The children of Israel groaned from under the labor and cried out in protest. They cried for help, rose up to God from their labor. And then God heard our voices. It says in Exodus, God heard their moans, and God remembered the divine covenant with Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. And here is a very interesting side story from the Hasidic Rebbe of Gur, who said this cry of pain was the beginning of redemption. As long as they carried their burden silently, did not cry out against their sufferings, they were not worthy for redemption. If you accept your suffering, no, you're going to be stuck with it. You reject your suffering, and then you have what to go on. Because if you're comfortable in your suffering, why leave it? Why take it?
Never be silent.
That's right. So here's a good story. Also, we have to give credit. There's a story. Why is women get involved in the Seder? It's a tribute to Susan Heschel, who was the daughter of my great professor Avram Yeshua Heschel. And somebody asked her about involvement of women. He said, "Look, women in Jewish life is like an orange on a Seder table." Oh, there we go. Where's my orange? Okay, so I got a little one here. So I put it on the Seder table. It says, "Okay, we're going to put an orange on the table. Talk about the involvement of women." And the truth is, in all times, the miracle of the Exodus is due to the women. It is the women who refused to be crushed. And of course, who also kept the Jewish people alive through the desert? Miriam. And so Miriam is associated with water. So I said, really better than I have the hand washing, right? Symbol of water. That's really even a better symbol. The water, the purity, the nourishment, the sustenance of water. That is Miriam is who kept the people going over the 40 years in the wandering. So, but what kept the women? What kept the people going? Here's the story. You can see this taken from the Midrash. The Egyptians' express purpose in enslaving Israel was to cut their birth rate. Right? They said too many Jews around. Let's not let them have children. The hard labor was to keep them from mating, keep them too exhausted. And according to the Midrash, it was the women who resisted. They used their sexuality to arouse the husbands and reignite the will to life. So when Israel performed hard labor in Egypt, Pharaoh decreed the men must not sleep in their homes, so they would not engage in sexual relations. Rabbi Shimon bar Halachta said, what did the daughters of Israel do? They went down to draw water from the Nile. God would bring little fish into their jars, and they would cook some of the fish, sold the rest, buying wine with the proceeds. And they went out to the fields and fed their husbands. And after eating and drinking, the women would take out bronze mirrors and look at them with their husbands. The wife would say, I'm prettier than you. And the husband would reply, I'm more beautiful than you. And it's the wine working on him. Thus, they would arouse themselves to desire and then be fruitful and multiply. The women are the ones who never gave up. Beautiful thing. At the end of the Holocaust, I remember this, listening to a talk with the great Elie Wiesel, and he said, after the concentration camps were opened up, there were prisoners in the concentration camps from many different countries. They went out, they took their revenge on the Germans. What did we do? We said Kaddish, buried our dead, said Kaddish, and then we had families. And that's how we Jews get up and go. So, another way of talking about the Seder is to reenact it. And here, if you see, I have an example of a little skit where someone knocks on the door. You say, who's there? Moses, Aaron, and Miriam. Tell us about your journey. We just arrived from Egypt. And where you're going to. And this is the beautiful line at the very end. We're going to Jerusalem. And this is done in many Sephardic communities, Mizrahi communities. So I have a very, very short section, enactment in Amharic. Amharic is the language used by Jews of Ethiopia. It is the main language of Ethiopia. They also have a second language, Giz, which is like Yiddish for them, the historic language. But this is in Amharic. I was looking for authentic Ethiopian Jewish customs, but what's happened is in Israel, they become totally Israelized. So that, as you'll see, even though they still wear the traditional garb, what they're doing is modern Israeli, but Israeli Jewish, what they've picked up. But there's one section, a very beautiful little skit. Watch it.
እንዴት አረፈዱ አበቄሱ?
እግዚአብሔር ይመስገን።
ወዴት ነው የመጡት?
ከግብፅ ነው የመጣው።
ወዴት እየሄዱ ነው?
ኖ ነሰግድ ወንገኒ ሎቶ ለባቲቶ ኖ
እንልሃለን።
ሃለኽ ማንያ ዲያኸል ወባታና በዕራድ מצרים.
Now we go into the
כל
rest of the
דכפין
explaining
יתב
the
ויכול.
Seder. But
כל
it's a
דצריך
straight
יתב ויפסח. אשת האחה לשנה הבאה בארעד ישראל. אנו מטבלין אפילו
right? And the Ashkenazic or the Israeli chant. Okay, but that one section, this classical melody, Ethiopian melody. We go ahead now for the real story. As you see Charlton Heston leading the cast of all the, what do we call the
extras.
The extras. There we go. 600,000 extras. There we go. But this is now the real story. Here you go. As it was never told.
Pharaoh, it's me. I was wondering if after all these years the Jews you'd free. It's all over, everything. You see, it's time for us to leave you. I hope there's no hard feelings.
Hello? I can't hear you. I think the river needs some cleaning. It's turning red and we're thirsty. What's with all these frogs in my streets? Locusts flying, I've got boils, and it's hail so freaky.
There's not much difference between us, except our million gods. Moses on our candles died. We must have scratched 1,000 times.
I tell you, I'm sorry for everything that I've done.
Just stop these burning legs and don't mention the firstborn.
Wish we could turn back time to the good old days when we ruled the Jews. Now we're slaves, but now we're stressed out. Wish we could turn back time to the good old days before we met this dude. Now our sheep are dead, we're stressed out.
Blame pretend no one's gonna get away. I hope you brought your swimming trunks, cause you'll need them for the day. Gonna take your gold and silver, eat some manta and be free. Then maybe we'll eat lots of manna. Yo! No time for dodo rise, bread of freedom is his name. Leave behind the love, the ego, and time no has no rain. Fermentation is a process, only happens certain ways. Taste your freedom, now live like a soul. Yo! My God, he don't like you and he loves everyone. And I think it's time for you to admit you're wrong. Now we all live for Israel, cause with God we cannot fail. And now we know that he's the one that's in control.
Well, I just can't believe we let them go. Oh, maybe we can catch them at the sea. Don't be afraid, let's go and follow them.
I told you you should have listened to me. Hello from the other side. Free at last in the Sinai. To go out, get the Torah. A Jewish nation is born. Have a happy Passover. May you feel freedom down to your floor.
Okay, so now you know the real story. Of course, today it would have been, they would have crossed the Suez Canal instead of the Red Sea, and since there's a ship stuck in the middle of the Suez Canal, they could just hopped on and crossed through the ship to the other side. Okay, so we have our 10 plagues, as you all know, and which I cannot do here, it's difficult to do, but tradition is that we take away a drop from the cup for each of the plagues because the Egyptians too are humans. Very interesting, the Bible later on expresses no animosity to the Egyptians 400 years of slavery, no animosity. Like we're told, you're not allowed to hate the Egyptian. They were punished. They received their punishment. We got gold, the Egyptian wealth. We took, all quit. And so we recognize them as human beings. Remove a little bit from the cup of wine. So we daham, we say, daham, tzvadeya, kinim, arod, dever, shechin, barad, arbe, choshech, makad bechorot. Then Rabbi Yehuda used to make an abbreviation to remember. He would say, Ditzach, Adash, Be'achav, took the first letter of each word and made 3 new words. Don't mean anything, it's just a reminder. We have a lot of these reminders. Well, it's enough, it's enough, it's enough. Dayenu, dayenu, dayenu. So I said, well, remember, we had a meeting with Jews online from Warsaw. So let's see what's going on in Warsaw in recent years and how they do Dayenu the same way we do. In fact, they have a guest rabbi. He's going to explain it, and I think you'll understand the English as well as if you don't know the Polish.
Stage, we say Dayenu, it would have been enough for us.
Słowa pieśni, która temu towarzyszy, rozpoczynają się, każda zwrotka rozpoczyna się od słów Dayenu, co by oznaczało dość. I to byłoby dość. Tak. To by wystarczyło. Gdyby Bóg zrobił tylko to, to i to by wystarczyło. Ale zrobił więcej.
Co minut zjeżdża.
Enough. We got enough. We got one thing. We got two things. We got a whole bunch of things that we got. The judgments of the Egyptians, destruction of their gods, destruction of their firstborn, the wandering in the desert, the Shabbat, going to Har Sinai, getting the Torah, going into the land of Israel. Dayenu, how much more could we ask for? Anything more? All right, that song. Could you ask for anything more? Well, there's a custom. Many of you know it from different Jewish communities in the Middle East, which is the onion free-for-all. Haggadah mentions that it's Afghani, but it's from many, many different communities, where as they sing Dayenu, they hit each other with onions. So I said, I want to see somebody taking out the onions. And so I'm going to show you this clip, a Farsi film. I'm going to assume probably in LA, put this on YouTube, and I guarantee you no onions were hurt in this. I can't speak for the family members. Watch them. And you can try it on your own, but be very careful.
Kindness to us. Has God freed us from the Egyptians and not
I'm recording.
brought judgment upon them?
That's right.
Okay, I think you get the point. How do you go? You know, somebody goes to the police and says, "Officer, I've been injured by an onion." How, you know, I was assaulted by an onion.
How many cups of wine?
It's only 1 cup so far. That's pretty good. There's only 1 cup of wine. Okay, so now we come to the 3 critical elements of the Seder: the Pesach, the Matzah Maror. So as I said, and I couldn't. The kids ate my matzah. Well, that was the shank bone or the little chicken wing, and that got eaten already last night, so it's gone. But I still have the maror, as I said, which you have a choice of horseradish up here, or the actual original maror was the romaine lettuce, because it was bitter. The story of romaine lettuce is it's bitter only when it gets old. When it is a young plant, it's on the mild side. As it gets older, it gets more bitter. They said that's the Egyptians. They started with us nice, and then got worse. Pharaoh and the Joseph, oh, come on in, welcome, the best of the land. And then you get the Pharaoh of the Exodus, throwing our kids in the Nile River. So that's pretty bitter. And then we have the matzah, the bread of affliction, right? To remind us of the haste in which we left Egypt. We couldn't get out fast enough. And the Egyptians, frankly, also couldn't get rid of us fast enough as well. So we have to recite the purpose of each one. Rabban Gamliel used to say, so you can all recite with me, all who have not explained the significance of 3 things during the Passover Seder have not fulfilled their duty, and their duty are the
lamb, the matzah, and the
maror, Pesach, right? The Pesach which the ancestors ate while the temple is still standing. For what reason? Ashum shepasach HaKadosh Baruch Hu al batei avotenu. To remind ourselves that God passed over our ancestors in Egypt at this time, and hence we mean this ceremony is the Passover offering to Adonai, because God passed over the houses of Israel in Egypt, and God struck the Egyptians but saved our houses. Pasach habatei b'nei Yisrael b'Mitzrayim. That's the Pesach. The next one, oh, here's the table. Just there, somebody got a nice, decent shank bone for me. Maror, the Haroset. Well, I have a.
The charoset is red.
That's the Ashkenazic charoset, the Yemenite charoset, very similar to Sephardic charoset. You heavy on dates, some spices in like cinnamon, ginger. Some put pepper, hot pepper, also give it a touch, a tang.
And dates.
Dates, yeah. Well, that's the chorus dates in this one, and the maror, again, as I said, the bitter herb, the Ashkenazic, the greens, the Ashkenazic using the horseradish, because you couldn't get fresh greens.
We did it.
Yeah.
And then a vegetable.
Rabbi, why do they call it a horseradish?
I like the other better.
Okay, and matzah shuma, matzah zo shanu ochlim shuma. Why this matzah? Right, matzah. Remind us that even before the dough of our ancestors in Egypt had time to rise, the Holy One, blessed be He, revealed Himself and redeemed them. Right, there's the story. And then maror, the bitter herb. Right, so the more I took up, to remind us that the Egyptians embittered our ancestors' lives. And so many of you still remember Andrea. She hasn't been able to come. We've been all in lockdown, and she's in Pasadena. So, and she's working on a doctorate now, finishing it up. But she made us some videos. I'm going to include a few of them for you. And this is the matzah song, which is the answer to these items.
Hey, one of my personal favorite Gershwin melodies. We've got matzah. We've got matzah, we've got maror, we've got shank bones. Who could ask for anything more? Okay, hold on. Shank bones are not vegan. I'm vegan, so I have to object here. What else do we have on Passover? We have matzah, we have maror, we have parsley. Parsley's vegan. Karpas. Let's do that. Let's try again. We've got matzah, we've got maror, we've got karpas. Who can ask for anything more? We've got manna in the desert. We've got Moses. Who can ask for anything more? Old man Pharaoh, he's behind us. You won't find us at his door. We've got freedom, we've got Torah, we've got our God who can ask for anything more, who can ask for anything more.
Thank you. Okay, so, oops, let's stop this one. And before we go ahead, don't get carried away. What did I just do? Tell me I didn't just close out the wrong thing. No, we're okay. We're okay. Yeah, we're still live. Are we still live? Tell me.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. I want to see that I didn't shut down.
It says Persian Passover.
Hold on. I think I cut out. Give me 1 second. It should be on live stream. Is there anybody watching this on Zoom?